A little over 200 years ago, a boy named 𝐲𝐸𝐸 was born. 𝐲𝐸𝐸 grew up in poverty with a very sick father who he was taking care of. In order to pay for his father's medicine, 𝐲𝐸𝐸 pickpocketed from people in town but was caught many times. In order to stop him from stealing, magistrate marked him with tattoos to make him recognizable and also threatened to cut off his arms next time he gets caught stealing, referring to him as a demon child. Upon returning home, his neighbor told him that his father, having heard the news of his arrest, hung himself. He left 𝐲𝐸𝐸 a letter telling him that he wanted his son to live a full life and didn't want to take medicine if it was earned by dishonest means. Being marked with criminal tattoos and having no home to return to, 𝐲𝐸𝐸 was eventually banished from Edo. Devastated by the loss of his father and enraged at this society they lived in where he couldn't afford his father's medicine, he picked fights with people and beat them up. One day, after nearly killing 7 adult men in a village, he was approached by Kaizo, the owner of a local dojo. Annoyed by the man's cheerful demeanor, 𝐲𝐸𝐸 challenged him to a fight but was defeated with ease. Kaizo then took him in so he could nurse Koyuki, Kaizo's sickly daughter. Her mother, her previous caretaker, drowned herself due to stress, and Kaizo had to work handyman jobs to keep them afloat, so 𝐲𝐸𝐸 was tasked with tending to her. Already accustomed to caring for his father, he had little trouble, though he found it awkward when she burst into tears seemingly at random. One of those times, unbeknownst to him, he had indirectly motivated her by telling her that there will be the next year to see a local fireworks show. 2 years later, Koyuki's health improved enough that she could stand and do chores. 𝐲𝐸𝐸 continued training as Kaizo's pupil of the Soryu style, and the dojo began to grow. One day, Kaizo offered to let 𝐲𝐸𝐸 take over the dojo and to take his daughter Koyuki as his wife, to 𝐲𝐸𝐸's surprise and embarrassment. He agreed, promising himself that he will protect them both till the day he dies. At a festival, Koyuki told him of her past, asking if he was really okay with the proposal, to which he reaffirmed his vows to her, promising to protect her for the rest of his life. Soon after, 𝐲𝐸𝐸 decided to go back to his hometown and visit his father's grave, proudly telling his father that he got married. But as soon as he went back, he realized that something was wrong. A student from dojo ran towards 𝐲𝐸𝐸, informing him that the head of the rival dojo poisoned the water Koyuki and Kaizo were drinking, and that the two died shortly after drinking it. Having his world turned upside down, 𝐲𝐸𝐸 started a fight with all 67 members of the rival dojo. He fought them all barehanded and killed every single one of them, making their corpses literally non-recognizable. After hearing this news, the demon king Muzan Kibutsuji went on to find 𝐲𝐸𝐸, offering to make him an immortal demon. 𝐲𝐸𝐸, realizing that once again he has lost everything, accepts Muzan's offer and becomes the demon later known as Akaza. After transforming into a demon, 𝐲𝐸𝐸 lost all of his human memories, completely forgetting about his father, Kaizo, and Koyuki. Despite this, as noted by Doma, he refused to ever eat or harm women. Due to his strength, loyalty, and will to become stronger, he became one of Muzan's favorites, and he dispatched him only for special missions, such as searching for the blue spider lily. A while later, he was sent by Muzan to kill all of the demon slayers on the Infinity Train. Akaza appears after Tanjiro and the demon slayers have defeated Enmu and rescued the passengers. Noticing a downed Tanjiro, he immediately rushes forward to kill him, when Rengoku stops the attack and slices his arm in half. Quickly healing the wound and complementing his blade, Akaza is then asked why he would attack an already injured person, to which he states he simply wanted to rid him quickly before talking to Rengoku. Deeming him as at the peak of his fighting spirit as a Hashira, he attempts to persuade him to become a demon. He states that as a human, he would eventually become old and die, whereas as a demon, he could continue to become more powerful. When Rengoku repeatedly refuses the offer and refutes his statements, an annoyed Akaza declares he would instead kill him and activates Destructive Death Compass Needle. Akaza and Rengoku battle fiercely. Akaza is repeatedly cut, but instantly regenerates his wounds, all while taunting Rengoku by saying all the Hashiras he had killed had never once taken his offer to change. The demon launches in the air and hits Rengoku with air type, knocking him back temporarily, though the attack is quickly beaten. Knowing a battle at a distance will be difficult, the flame Hashira rushes forward and tries to attack up close, though all his swings are deflected and dodged. Akaza starts to make contact with his attacks, severely injuring the Hashira. All of Rengoku's sword blows are futile with the demon's rapid healing abilities, and he starts to become desperate with multiple flame-breathing attacks. Akaza suddenly backs away, allowing Rengoku to catch his breath, only for Tanjiro and Inosuke to see him bleeding profusely, in contrast to a completely fine and healed Akaza. Akaza, once again, taunts Rengoku for his numerous injuries, whereas he had already healed instantly because of being a demon and for fighting a losing battle as a human. Rengoku's body suddenly becomes engulfed in fire, declaring he will fulfill his duty as a Hashira to the demon's confusion and wonder. Rengoku decides he would try to injure him as much as possible, even if it means dying, and speeds forward with flame-breathing, esoteric art. Akaza is amazed at his opponent's fighting spirit and decides he must become a demon so they can battle forever. Declaring he is the Flame 𝗕𝐲𝐬, he uses flame-breathing 9th form, Rengoku, and rushes forward. Akaza responds with Destructive Death, Annihilation type. They hit each other, with Rengoku slicing Akaza's arm, torso, and almost through his neck, and Akaza driving his arm through Rengoku's solar plexus. Akaza desperately begs him to become a demon, knowing the wound he inflicted is fatal, and amazed at his opponent's will to fight, declares him one of the few chosen strong ones. Rengoku refuses once more, remembering his mother's promise to him to protect the weak, and drives his sword deeper through his neck, even catching his fist when Akaza tries to punch him with his free hand, shocking the demon. The sun begins to rise and Akaza attempts to flee, but is held in place by Rengoku refusing to surrender. Tanjiro and Inosuke attempt to aid 𝗕𝐲𝐬, Inosuke using Fang 1 Pierce to attack the demon. Akaza suddenly rips off his own arms from Rengoku's body and stomps the ground, creating a shockwave that knocks Inosuke away and gives him the chance to flee. Tanjiro frantically gives chase and hurls his Nichiren blade at the upper moon, piercing his chest. Akaza hears Tanjiro's cries, calling him a coward for retreating, enraging him as he mutters to himself that he was fleeing from the sun, not him. Deciding the battle over and Rengoku will soon die, Akaza flees to safety in the forest. Akaza appears before Muzan and reports to him that he could not find the blue spider lily. Instead, he took down one of the 𝗕𝗲𝐬𝐬. Muzan retorts it was only one 𝗕𝗲𝐬𝐬 and declares his desire is for all to be dead. Angered at his failure, Muzan takes control of Akaza's cells and causes him to bleed heavily. The Demon Lord mocks him for acting proud when 3 other Demon Slayers were still alive, and he could have killed them as well, ending his rant by claiming, "Even Upper Moon 3 was brought to the ground." When dismissed by Muzan for his failure, he takes notice of Tanjiro's nearby blade. Remembering how he called him a coward, he furiously smashed it to pieces and declares he would spill his brains the next time they meet. Sometime later, Akaza is suddenly transported to the Infinity Castle by Nakume. He is greeted by Gyoko and Hantengu, but is disinterested in talking to them. He asks the Biwa demon about Muzan's whereabouts and where is Upper Moon 1, when he is cheerfully greeted by Doma. Annoyed by his attempts to have a conversation with, he irritably asks Doma to take his arm off him, then violently shatters his jaw when he doesn't. An unfazed Doma continues trying to talk, and even believes the attack is simply a sign of their friendship. Nakume answers his question and states that Upper Moon 1 is the first to arrive, who then announces Muzan's appearance. Muzan voices his disappointment in Gyutaro, and wonders aloud why the Upper Moons are still around with no longer a proper purpose. Akaza himself doesn't respond, knowing his recent failure. Gyoko suddenly states that he has new information for their leader, and Doma unwittingly asks if he can participate in a mission, causing Akaza to angrily destroy his superior's head for disobeying Muzan's orders. Suddenly, his hand falls off, and Kokushibo appears before him, reprimanding him for disrupting the hierarchy. A regenerated Doma tries to calm down Upper Moon 1, but he angrily tells Akaza if he wanted to take Doma's place and beat him, he should do so in a proper battle. A silent Akaza overhears Doma's statement that such a battle would be fruitless, since even the more recently turned Doma is far more powerful than he is. Doma continues to try defending Akaza, but Kokushibo directly asks him if he understood what he declared. Akaza complies, but quietly threatens to kill him as well. As Kokushibo disappears, Akaza rushes out of the Infinity Castle, ignoring Doma's attempts at another conversation. A while later, inside the Infinity Castle, Tanjiro and Giyu are rushing towards Muzan's location. Suddenly, a tremor appears, shaking both the Demon Slayers. Tanjiro recognizes a familiar smell and the roof above them breaks, revealing Upper Rank 3, Akaza. Akaza is surprised that a weakling like Tanjiro is still alive and shouts his name, with Tanjiro screaming his name in return. The fight between the three begins, a way for Tanjiro to avenge the death of the Flame 𝗕𝗲𝐬𝐬. As Akaza advances, Tanjiro dodges his punch and uses the Hinokami Kagura on Akaza and, with considerable effort, severs the upper rank's arm. As Tanjiro tries to recover, Akaza attempts to behead Tanjiro with a back fist punch, which Tanjiro dodges and counters with the Hinokami Kagura again, managing to create a long cut on Akaza's face. Akaza remembers Rengoku's words about Tanjiro not being weak and accepts it as a fact, deciding to acknowledge him by activating his technique development, Destructive Death, Compass Needle, and indicating the start of the real battle. After Giyu enters the fight, Akaza was instantly impressed by him, as it has been 50 years since he ran into someone as good as Giyu. He uses his Destructive Death Disorder, a flurry of punches that produce giant shockwaves, which Giyu negates with the water-breathing technique that he has created. Akaza remarks that he had never seen this technique used by the previous water 𝗕𝗲𝐬𝐬 he last fought. While Tanjiro tries attacking him from behind using the Hinokami Kagura, Akaza appears from behind and attempts to backhand chop, but Giyu cuts off his attacking hand. As Giyu attacks the upper rank, Tanjiro tries to rip Akaza by using the Hinokami Kagura Flame Dance on his legs, However, he is countered by his destructive death technique. Even though Tanjiro is able to block the technique, he is hit hard enough to spit blood. Akaza continues to battle Ɡhyū and is impressed by the Hashira's swordsmanship, asking for his name. Ɡhyū refuses, and Akaza replies that he would ask again and kicks him with his destructive death, launching him through various walls to another side of the castle. Akaza figures out the Water Hashira's name after Tanjiro shouts for him when he is blasted away by Akaza's previous attack. Tanjiro and Akaza attack each other yet again. Akaza praises Tanjiro's improvement and claims that Rengoku did an amazing job, pleased with his death. This enrages Tanjiro and prompts Akaza to give his philosophy of how he hates the weak and wishes they were eliminated. Tanjiro retorts by saying that even Akaza was once a child and that someone had helped him. He continues by stating the strong should aid and protect the weak, and he wouldn't let Akaza do as he pleased any further. Tanjiro's words shake Akaza as he feels restless, and memories of Kaizo appear, saying to him the same words. Akaza brushes it off and realizes it was but a hallucination. Angered, he claims Tanjiro to be unpleasant and uses his blood demon art and becomes much faster as Tanjiro attempts to dodge. The demon surprises Tanjiro and manages to kick him, making him cough up more blood. He compares Akaza's precision to that of a magnetic compass and begins to think and deduce using the demon's moves and words. Tanjiro then dodges another kick by Akaza and attacks him with his breathing. Akaza manages to avoid the technique. However, a considerable portion of his neck is sliced and he expresses amazement, asking Tanjiro how he swung his blade. Tanjiro attempts to use the Hinu Kamikagura dance, but the sword is clasped in Akaza's hand and he attempts to break it. Tanjiro uses headbutts and kicks, trying to make Akaza loosen his grip despite the demon not budging. Luckily, his hands got cut by Ɡhyū, angry about the deadly kick Akaza gave him previously. Ɡhyū's senses awaken, and a mark appears on his face. He easily dodges a shockwave punch and gives a quick slice of his own. Akaza dodges, but the attack slices a small portion of his neck. The demon acknowledges the increase in speed as Ɡhyū surprises him with a sudden water-breathing fourth form striking tide, vertically slicing Akaza's right arm. Tanjiro notices that Akaza has matched Ɡhyū's speed, and wonders how Akaza's attacks are so accurate. He suddenly remembers words from Akaza explaining how he is able to sense killing intent, and how he cannot detect people behind him if they have no killing intent. As the fight between Ɡhyū and Akaza goes on, Tanjiro remembers the time his father, Tanjiro Kamado, explains to him about correct breaths and movements, and about being able to see the transparent world, which one can achieve if the mind becomes invisible. He demonstrates by killing a bear while showing no killing intent. Tanjiro manages to achieve this state for a short moment in time when Akaza attacks him, closing off other senses and focusing on dodging. Akaza and Ɡhyū are battling fiercely, trading blows to each other. The Water Hashira has used up all his forms during the fight, and Akaza proclaims that it will be the end of the Hashira, amazed at how long he fought for. As Ɡhyū is about to attack the demon's fist, Akaza breaks Ɡhyū's sword by using the Bell Splitter technique and attempts to punch through him, but his arm is severed by Tanjiro, who had managed to enter the transparent world. Ɡhyū takes this moment to attack him, but Akaza uses his strongest technique, Technique Development Final Form, Blue-Silver Chaotic Afterglow. Ɡhyū tries to reduce it with his water breathing, but the attacks were too random and powerful to completely cancel out, and he gets hit by many shockwaves despite managing to dodge several blows. Meanwhile, Tanjiro is able to see everything move slowly in the transparent world. Akaza is unable to notice that Tanjiro was behind him, and Ɡhyū hopes he goes for the neck that instant. However, Tanjiro calls the demon out and Akaza turns to strike, but Tanjiro dodges. Akaza could not detect his fighting spirit via the compass, and Tanjiro manages to decapitate Akaza with his attack. Akaza was bewildered, wondering how Tanjiro did not have any fighting spirit, comparing this feeling to fighting against a plant. He acknowledges that Tanjiro surpassed his speed. He realizes that the domain of supremacy is nothing less than the transparent world and a selfless state. He tries to attach his head back, but Ɡhyū throws his broken sword, piercing the head, separating it from the body. His head disintegrates, but his body continues to fight. Tanjiro dodges his chops but is thrown aside by the demon's kick. He tried to get up and fight, but the stress and exhaustion of the fight caused him to pass out. Ɡhyū protects Tanjiro with the water breathing, slicing the headless body in various regions, but the demon regenerates faster. The two begin to trade blows, and although Ɡhyū is badly hurt, he still focuses on protecting Tanjiro, giving Akaza vague memories of Kaizo. As he advances, he was stopped by the teary-eyed spirit of his human self's deceased fiancée, Koyuki, telling him to stop. Ɡhyū continues to stand up, despite being burdened with the desire and goal to not let his friends or family die in front of him. Akaza was held by Koyuki's hand as his head continues to regenerate. Akaza begins to remember why he wanted to become strong and thinks back to the time he was the demon child Hakuji. From his father's death to meeting Kaizo and Koyuki, he remembers trying to find a purpose and reason in life, finding someone to protect. His memories of his past suddenly come rushing back. During this, Tanjiro manages to wake up, and Akaza's head has halfway recovered. The demon attempts to kill Giyu with his destructive death, and Tanjiro rushes to stop him, but his sword slips and he punches Akaza, causing him to question his current deeds and begins to regret sullying his master's precious style. As he prepares his technique, Tanjiro tries to pull Giyu away, but with a smile of gratitude on his face, Akaza uses the technique on himself, mutilating and pulverizing him and reducing many parts of his body to bones. Akaza admits defeat, stating that Tanjiro's technique was magnificent and that he wants to go to hell like a man. Memories from the past overwhelm him as he remembers his father and Kaizo. A sudden image of Muzan inside his head forces him to start regenerating again, but he is stopped by his wife Koyuki. Finding peace. At last, Akaza dies, reuniting with his loved ones, finally being free. Click on this video where we explain the entire story of Kokushibo.